Kevin really well when he was in Golden State. I happen to know Kevin really well when he was in Golden State. He's one of the nicest people that you ever want to be around. He's a serious basketball player. This guy does not neglect his craft. And I think sometimes when people poke and prod and with him, sometimes he'll say things that I'm happy he said them, but many times I don't think that's, people misread him, who he is as a person. This is one of the greatest players we've ever seen. And for him to want out, I can see why. But again, wherever he goes, or to my best guess, he'll be in, he's not going to get traded. You can't give enough to get a guy like him. And I see, Utah makes a trade with Minnesota. I said, oh my gosh. The assets they got for a terrific defensive player. What would Kevin Durant command? He's one of the greatest players to ever play the game, period.
So let me just begin with being back in Las Vegas for our summer league. It's quite remarkable what this has turned into. I'm told that we will have an economic impact on Las Vegas of roughly $125 million, that we will fill 70,000 hotel rooms over the course of the time we're here, and that will sell approximately 135,000 tickets. So while I know we don't have a franchise in Las Vegas, it feels like we have a franchise in Las Vegas, certainly with the impact that we're able to have here over the summer. Of course, it's all 30 teams. And as I've said before, I mean, to sort of mix a metaphor from another league, it feels, I've never been to the baseball winter meetings, but I'm told this is like the baseball winter meetings that we had. We just came out of a Board of Governors meeting because they're all here. We had a competition committee meeting in town. We are having a meeting with our team presidents tomorrow. Our NBA officials are here training. The trainers are here training. Virtually every constituent group around the league uses this opportunity in Las Vegas to meet and learn from each other. So thank you to the city of Las Vegas. Thank you to Governor Sisolak. He was with us at the game the other night. We appreciate his support for this event too. In terms of our meetings while we're here, happy to answer any questions about the Board of Governors meeting that recently concluded, but I'd just say generally that it was upbeat coming out of the meeting. People are thrilled that as we head into next season, it looks like we'll be on our normal track in terms of when the season starts, in terms of our protocols around the game, particularly around the health and safety of our players. I have learned over the last 2.5 years not to make any predictions when it comes to COVID, but only to say we'll be prepared for anything that comes our way. And just lastly, want to thank all these various constituent groups I mentioned in the NBA earlier for getting us through a very difficult 2.5 years. Our players have been fantastic, making all kinds of adjustments, putting up with difficult testing protocols in the past. Same for our teams. I think it's fair to say that everyone's a bit tired after this long stretch, really going all the way back to March of 2020, and I hope that everyone in our broader community gets a chance, including the media, to take a break after we get through this free agency period and before the beginning of training camp. So with that, Tim, happy to answer any questions.
All right, we'll take questions again. A reminder to raise your hand. We'll bring a microphone to you and name and affiliation. We'll start in the second row on the right with Tim.
Tim Reynolds with the AP. Hi, Adam.
Hey, Tim.
I haven't been to the baseball meetings. I've been to the NFL meetings. These are way better.
Okay.
Just so you know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We do good meeting.
I wanted to ask you about and revenue. 8.9 and over 10 for revenue. So close to a pandemic, with a pandemic really still going on. Did those numbers, I mean, I'm sure you're thrilled, but did those numbers surprise you? Did they, I mean, it has to be a pleasant surprise, I'm sure, but how is that, I guess, how did that come to pass with, given all the league has had to endure the last 2.5 years like the rest of the world?
The numbers did surprise me to a certain degree, Tim, because they exceeded our projections. So the extent projections represent where we think our business was going, surpassing $10 billion of revenue clearly is a record, for this league. And I think it's quite remarkable from where we came, only 2.5 years ago, when it was the future of this industry was in question. I mean, not and in part because of the pandemic, but also people questioning whether people would want to continue to assemble in arenas and stadiums the way they are. I think what it demonstrated this past season was an incredible amount of pent-up demand from people to get out and to be with other people. I think there is something unique and special about being around other people, whether you're there to cheer or jeer or whatever it is. There's something really special, particularly I think about arena and stadium sports. And we came off a playoff where every game was a sellout, which is remarkable. And as you know, our ratings were up significantly this season. So I'm pleased. I'm thankful to our fans that they came back in record numbers and continued to support our players. And I also think we were fortunate. We've been doing this a long time. It felt like we had a particularly competitive playoffs this year as well. And so again, I'm always cautious in making predictions, because we've all learned the hard way with this virus that things can happen, that with variants and other aspects of it that we aren't currently being predicted. But as I said, I think our meetings in town have been upbeat because people feel like we're through the worst of it and we're back on track for next season.
Second row on your left, Brian.
Hey, Brian Lewis.
Hey, Brian.
Back in February, you had talked about how having stars making trade demands was not necessarily good for the league. I'm curious when you have Kevin Durant, one of the 2 or 3 biggest stars in the league, making a trade demand days before his own 4-year extension even kicks in. What's your response when you see that? What's your reaction when you see that?
My view hasn't changed. I don't know whether he requested a trade or demanded one, frankly. But look, this needs to be a two-way street. Teams provide enormous security and guarantees to players, and the expectation is in return that they'll meet their end of the bargain. I'm realistic that there's always conversations that are going to go on behind closed doors between players and their representatives on the teams, but we don't like to see players requesting trades, and we don't like to see it playing out the way it is. I mean, ideally, especially, as I was just saying in response to the last question, the basketball was fantastic this past season. Playoffs, we had wonderful finals, and I don't want to be naive, but I would love the focus to be on play on the floor. And as to what we can do about this issue, again, when a player asks to be moved, it has a ripple effect on a lot of other players, on that player's team and other teams. So it's not just potentially the league or the team governors who are impacted by that, but lots of other players as well. So it's one of those issues that as we move into this collective bargaining cycle, which we're just beginning now, we intend to discuss with our Players Association and see if there are remedies for this. That again, as I said, it'll never be a case when players won't be unhappy in certain situations, but we don't want to see it playing out the way it is now. And I think it is something where there's mutuality of interest between the players collectively and the league, and in having more stability. So that's something we'll be discussing with the union.
Fifth row in the back, right? Tim?
ESPN. Adam, 2 things quick. First, when you mentioned that things are getting back to normal with regard in part to health and safety protocols, what exactly does that look like as you see it now? I know you're not going to make necessarily predictions, but going forward in terms of testing and other things that have been in place, what do you see changing?
What it looks like to me is people are symptomatic with test, and then of course, and would be tested quickly, and to the extent a player or a member of the staff is positive, they would then, whatever the state of the protocols are then, whether there's antivirals available to them, but certainly they would be separated from the team. My assumption is there'd probably be some mask wearing, not required of fans unless local municipalities require it, but in the bowels of the arena where people are proximate and trainers and others are working on players, to the extent there are relatively simple things we can do to reduce risk of transmission, we would do those as well. But I don't see much more beyond that, at least right now. I mean, I think it's going to seem, as it essentially did for most of the playoffs, very much like the pre-COVID, protocols we were following then. But as you mentioned, bless you, you never know what's coming.
Would that include continued testing of vaccinated players, or will that go away also?
Well, the testing, what we're doing now is, regardless of vaccinated or not, if you're symptomatic, you would be tested. I mean, as we well know, I mean, as I understand it, the fact that you're vaccinated won't prevent you from getting COVID, but can dramatically reduce the symptoms. But it's still important that we test those people, both because it may be the case that they can be treated with an antiviral and help their recovery, but also to help ensure that they're not transmitting it to others.
And just as you mentioned, as part of the CBA negotiations that are going on, where do those stand in terms of what you updated the governors on?
We're in very early stages with the Players Association. Again, they have a relatively new executive director, Tamika Tremalio. I think she's in the process of getting up to speed with the union staff and her executive committee. And we're building a relationship, she and I and her group and our team. And we both recognize that this is around the right time that we should start engaging with each other and exchanging data and having a better understanding of what both sides' needs and issues are.
Third row in the middle, Melissa.
Hi, Adam.
Hi, Melissa.
In terms of Brittney Griner, there's a definite school of thought that if it were LeBron James or Tom Brady in Russia, that they'd be home now. And obviously, this situation is extremely nuanced and complicated. But I'm curious what, if anything, the NBA is able to do to help bring her home at this point.
I can't speak to how, obviously, our government or society would react to a different athlete, and one that it would have been better known from day one. I will say, though, that from the NBA standpoint, we, working with our sister league, the WNBA, are doing everything in our power to bring her home. We've had from early days extensive discussions with the administration, the State Department, her family, her representatives. I mean, as we've now discussed publicly, it was suggested to us early on that we should not be drawing more attention to her because the likely demand would increase in terms of a trade, to get her potentially out of the country. But I know even her wife, was quoted the other day as saying that she is satisfied with everything the Biden administration is doing right now. So I honestly don't know much more it is that we can be doing. I think our players, NBA players, did an excellent job in drawing more attention to the situation during the finals. I wasn't there, but I watched the WNBA All-Star game from Chicago. Obviously, she was Brittney was there in spirit and well represented by her fellow players. So I'm sort of in the position I'm in. I'm accepting that the administration is doing everything they can, recognizing there are some seriously complex geopolitical issues here. And I'm sure invariably as they are more focused on Brittney, there are other families who are, of course, concerned about their loved ones who are being held against their will in Russia right now, and they're focused on getting them out. And I know there are, very difficult issues that the Biden administration has to face in terms of what's appropriate to put on the table. But it's my understanding that family is very satisfied with what they are prepared to do and are trying to do right now. And so I'm open to suggestions, from others. Both my counterpart Kathy Engelbert at the WNBA and I, we talk daily about Brittney, and again with her agent. So, we're just trying to do everything we can to get her back.
The Durant situation, or situations like that, not specifically about him, was a topic for the board here in Vegas this week. Was there much discussion about it? And is there anything in the CBA that prevents teams from just saying, we want you to honor your contract?
Well, so number one, no. That situation was not discussed at our meeting today. And number two, I was only being a little bit facetious in recharacterizing something called a trade demand as a trade request. No one has suggested to me that Kevin Durant has said he's not willing to live up to the terms of his contract. I mean, so to say you would like to play in another city is one thing. To say I'm not going to appear for training camp or certainly games would potentially be a violation of his contract. But I don't know what exactly is going on right now between him and his team. Certainly there's a lot of buzz in this town about possible moves, but from that standpoint I feel like more like a fan absorbing information that way. I know when we have discussions both with our Players Association, among our teams, there is a recognition, I've said this before, everybody's got leverage, and that's healthy in certain ways, that you have players who, Kevin Durant's a perfect example, has a talent, arguably, just read the population's about to hit 8 billion, that 8 billion people minus one don't have. I mean, that's how special these players are. And there are also teams that enter into binding contracts with players, and that gives them rights too. I mean, we saw, unfortunately, this play out with Ben Simmons. So does that mean we can't improve the system? No. I think that, as I said, though, it takes both us and the Players Association sitting down and I think acknowledging the principles that are at stake here, and that is the sanctity of contracts and the desire for stability, as I said, that not just affects that player, but other players as well. And I am hopeful. I mean, I think we have a very productive relationship with our Players Association, that not necessarily we're going to completely eliminate players asking to be moved, but that we can find a way to move the attention back onto the court.
Okay, let's try.
The Terminator himself, Adam Silver Slipper, real squeaky in the way he talks. They're going to lower the age requirement from 19 to 18 so they can have younger players come in and pick them right off so that other people can't breathe. College basketball is going to be dismal, and the NBA wants all the damn money. But yet, they can't figure out a way to fill up stadiums in their small arenas. I mean, for their small town teams. When the answer's been smacking them right dead in the face is let them play. If you let the players play, they will tell you who's the great players. They will show you who's the great teams. And then you could have fans. Saying we need the Lakers to do this consistently is just, we need the Lakers, we need LeBron in there. It's just, people get bored. They get tired of seeing the same old, when it's not aesthetically pleasing to watch them. Watching LeBron, it's like eating your food and what they putting in the NBA Finals. It's like, you're going to eat this, but it's like you don't want to eat Brussels sprouts. You don't want Brussels sprouts. And if you're eating Brussels sprouts and you're like, Mom, I don't want to eat it, and she said, you got to eat it, it's good for you. And you're just like, I don't like it. It tastes like it. To some people, they don't like it. And you can understand, it's not aesthetically pleasing to watch LeBron James. But when you watch somebody like Kevin Durant, a 7-footer with basketball skills and moves, and you're like, how is he doing this? You know, this is a 7-footer doing all this whoop. And there it is, speaking of old man Bron. Oh. And James Harden is not a poor guy. Oh, with speed at that time. Oh, goodness. KD has done this everywhere he's went, and he is by far one of the greatest assets of the game, as Jerry West has stated. He understands why Kevin would probably want to leave after watching the scenarios and how things played out. But what KD got in his bag, these dudes have never had. You've never seen a guy with moves like this who could shoot the way he could shoot, who could defend the way he could defend. It's not fair. So to say this guy legacy, and if this guy wants to go, you know, you might not like it, but what can you do about it? You're going to just have to obey. He's one of the greatest players, and like it's two, him and Kawhi Leonard. Kyrie is third, if you want to do that list. But look, you can't fool me, and you can't fool the general public. Everybody knows Kevin Durant is a problem. And that problem can't be bartered with. You can't bully it. You can't do nothing but embrace it. Now, the way I look at it, people have options. They can do what they like. But me, the only option I see is the fact that you're looking at scenarios that don't usually add up or make sense. You're looking at a scenario that, in my opinion, it just isn't right. For the commissioner to take such a lame duck approach, it just goes to back up the statement everybody always says. Like, damn, you are such a candy ass. Can you take your balls out of your boyfriend's purse and make a decision and make a statement and make a stance? How you gonna make one statement? Then that's why I showed it to y'all, so y'all could see it. How you gonna make a statement, then turn around in that same statement and try to walk it back when someone else asks you basically the same question? It's like, so you saying like you ain't cool with this? Oh no, that's not what I'm saying. Then what are you saying, Mom? You know, as I know, this isn't good for the league. And you're right. But you don't have the balls to stand on the fact that you're right. But you don't want to upset Kevin Durant because you okayed all this shit for LeBron. But see, it was good when LeBron did it, but it's bad when Kevin Durant wants to do it. See, this double standard is what's killing the league. Now, what you're really not saying is that when this all went down, you approved it. You approved the LeBron James going to Miami because you didn't want him in Cleveland because of the market. Y'all look at Cleveland as a dump site. The owner had to spend his own money to fix up the stadium so y'all can have an all-star game there. Otherwise, you guys weren't coming. Well, houses need upkeep. And when you don't have upkeep, this is the scenario that you're faced with. When people are not upkeeping the house or the living quarters or whatever you want to call it. It's just like the team where the stadium is. You got to have upkeeps, right? So they weren't satisfied. Not only were they not satisfied, it became an even bigger problem down the road. And you're going to say, well, what? What was the bigger problem? So, I don't get it. What you saying? What I'm saying is, they know the market is messed up. Because not only do you mess up betting odds, you're messing with people's money in Vegas who bet millions of dollars. And now when players get traded, they don't get that money back. Now they're stuck with it. Odds change. And now you have uncertainty in the betting world right now, because who's going to bet on a team until they know where Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving is going? No one's going to put down a bet. They be like, look, I can't bet until I know where they going, because that's going to determine a lot on how I bet. Because you talking about one of these players could be in an NBA Finals. If they're not on the same team, if they both on the same team, they might be in an NBA Finals. Just with them two alone. Now, you want to talk about winning it and embracing what you're doing. You actually want to embrace the fact that you have 17 other teams in the league that's trying to acquire Kevin Durant. 17. And out of all of those 17 teams that's trying to acquire KD, everybody got a problem with mainly just one. They don't want him to go to Golden State. But if he went to the Lakers, everybody's going to love it. Notice, there was no mention of Kyrie Irving. It's all about Durant. Where is Durant going? Durant's not obligating his contract. Now everyone is speaking out because they're looking at it like trying to get the realization of Kevin Durant. That's why Jerry West was saying it in the beginning when you heard that. And that's why Adam Silver Slipper was saying what he was saying, is because they want you all to know that, hey, they might still be on the team. There's no way for we to look at, no team can really trade for you, Kevin Durant. So you might be stuck. And he's letting it know that if Kevin Durant don't play, if he sit down for whatever the reason, that he won't be getting paid. This will affect his money. And as I told you guys, Kevin Durant will sit out if he has to. If he felt like that he's being screwed with, He'll just sit out. Because why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he? But it's going to be his decision. Especially it looks like they're screwing up the Suns deal. And the Suns is like, look, we're waiting to try to get this thing done, but they trying to, we're not giving them no Devin Booker. That's out of the question. You're not getting Chris Paul. You're not getting Devin Booker. Like, what other pieces do you want that's not finna cripple the whole team by us getting just Kevin Durant? So Kevin Durant's in a situation where he's stuck, and this new CBA meeting goes the wrong way. I'm telling you, this has ruined the league, and everybody believes Donovan Mitchell's finna be traded for Kevin Durant now, because Donovan Mitchell still isn't happy. You know, he wanted to go to the Heat. You see, Pat Riley got out of that Miami situation like that. Pat tells you the way it is. And if you start coming with all this in his mind, you don't want to trade nobody. So take me out the equation. I'm not jumping through any hoops. That's how he feels. I can't get mad at that. You can only do anything but honor that, because somebody is speaking the truth. You know, they speaking how they feel realistically. So I understand that. Hey, it is what it is. So don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the page, man. But Kevin Durant demanding a trade, asking for a trade, is realistic. But what are you going to do? Man, I'm tired as hell. Had an incredible 48 hours. And man, on the Patreon, I'm going to tell y'all the craziest. You will not believe this has happened, and it was right under your nose. I kid you not. Kid you not. That's interesting too. Okay. Things getting a little different around here now. So anyhow, I'm finna get out of here. God bless. Good night. Subscribe. Like. If you're new here, hit the notification bell. My Cash App is Carceno. Karceno. And I'm finna play some music.